Welcome to My Weekly Mixtape, a podcast that takes the classic mixtape approach to building a modern playlist. I'm your host, Brian Colburn, and here we are, episode 150. Now, for those of you keeping count, I know back in January was just episode 100, and no, here we are in September. I did not put out 50 episodes between January and September, but when you add in all of the bonus episodes that I've done over the course of this show's run, this technically is the 150th episode of My Weekly Mixtape. So I'm really, really stoked about that milestone, and also think it's a perfect opportunity to press pause on My Weekly Mixtape for a couple months. Call it a season break, if you will. The longest season probably in podcasting history. If not, it's got to be up there, I'm sure. And I'm sure there's podcasts that have gone on for thousands of episodes and never taken a break. But as a one-man solo show, realistically going nearly 3 years without taking a week off until the weeks that my father passed away and I took off in his honor, not missing a week has been an incredibly fun streak to keep up, but also at the same time, an incredibly stressful one. It's one that I put a ton of work into this show, and I hope that it's something that you, the listeners out there, enjoy checking out each and every week. I do want to stress, though, a lot of times when people say they're pressing pause on a podcast, they say that's the last you'll ever hear from them. And if anybody knows me at all, since Tune Styles, I have not taken much more than a couple of month break without getting my itch to continue podcasting again. I genuinely just love it so, so much. However, in the last year, with my heart surgery being just passing the 1 year anniversary, as well as losing my father back in May, I think a little family time is warranted and needed right now. Kind of let the dust settle a little bit, get through a couple of those first tough holidays, and then get back to doing what I love, because I know for a fact my father would not want me to stop what I'm doing here. We've built way too much and have had so many great conversations over the course of 150 episodes that I don't think it's possible for me to pull the plug completely on the show. So with that being said, tonight is another exercise in futility. Just like episodes 100 through 103, I am going to build the ultimate mixtape, meaning I threw out a question to every guest that's been on the show, every Patreon mixtaper, as well as friends of the show and fellow podcasters, and I asked them a very simple question. What is the song that either A, made you fall in love with music for the first time, or B, makes you fall in love with music over and over again every single time you hear the song? That opens this up to a conversation that can go in so many different directions, because when you say the song that made you fall in love with music, depending on your age, that song's going to probably be dated to your childhood. So I wanted to add a little bit of a nuance in this, that maybe there's a song that you just heard this past week, and every time you hear it, you're like, oh my God, I got to play that thing over and over and over again because I just can't get enough of it. This is what I love about music. Those are the answers we're going for. And like the first time that I did this exercise, the answers did not disappoint. Now, what I did once again, because apparently I'm a sucker for punishment, is I've tried to order these songs in what would be a serviceable, listenable playlist. So that's where the conversation comes in. You might be like, why are you putting X after B? Why are you putting Q next to Z? Let's go and find out, shall we? But before we do that, if you like what you're hearing on My Weekly Mixtape, you can help me out by either telling a friend about the show, leaving the show a 5-star review wherever you're tuning in, or by becoming a Patreon mixtaper at patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. There you can find, when we're in season, ad-free episodes of the show, and you can gain early access to future My Weekly Mixtape episodes, and you can become a guest curator, drop answers, as you're going to hear from several of the Patreon mixtapers tonight, so much more. Once again, patreon.com/My Weekly Mixtape. So with that, let's dive into the ultimate mixtape, the songs that made you fall in love with music. And first off, we have Jim Laughlin of Mo with his choice for the ultimate mixtape.
Oh man. I just had like 4 songs ripped through my head. Um AC/DC's Back in Black.
Oh,
It's a weird pick, but there's not a day that I can remember in my life where I didn't just love music, where I didn't listen to music, where I didn't, ever since I was a really, really little kid. But when a buddy of mine let me borrow his Back in Black cassette, and then I finally went out and bought it, that, first of all, that song, the first time I heard it, I was like, wow, like that just, I don't know, it just hit me for some reason. And then I used that. So I woke up to that song every day in 7th and 8th grade. Like my old alarm clock was a cassette player, and you'd push pause and play at night and set the alarm, and the pause would pop off when the alarm would go off. So every morning I woke up to, the and it was the first song that when I was like, I want to do this. Like, I don't want this to just be something I enjoy and, as part of my life. I want to actually do this and make music. And that's what got me started playing the bass, and it just all kind of trickled out from there. And it brings me back every time I hear it. I can't hear that or just that whole record. Like, I know that record back and forth. It's just imprinted on my brain. So every time I hear it, I'm like, yeah, man.
One of the greatest count-ins of a song of all time. Like the count-in on the hi-hat, as soon as you hear what Phil Rudd is doing in that song, you immediately know what's about to happen.
Yeah.
And it's iconic.
Yeah, it's the only iconic hi-hat part in music. I mean, it's, if you know it, you know it. Like, you don't need to hear the second part of it before, when the guitar is going to kick in, when the bass is going to kick in, just everything about that song. It just gets me every time.
A fun fact about Back in Black, when I was a kid growing up, and I'm going to admit something here, I'm not ashamed of it. When I was really, really young, I actually thought Back in Black started side A of my vinyl album and thought Hell's Bells was side B. I understand that the song listing was Hell's Bells on side A and Back in Black on side B, but because I loved Back in Black so much, I always started with side B and then played through to side A, kind of in a reverse side order kind of thing, which I loved doing as a kid. I don't do that anymore, but man, maybe I have to, because I do remember loving Back in Black in that weird sequence of side B followed by side A. Now I almost want to think of what the Cars self-titled album would sound like if I did it with that, but I digress. AC/DC, Back in Black, what a killer way to kick off this ultimate mixtape. Jim has been a three-peat guest here on my weekly mixtape. So thankful for the conversations we've had together. We did a complete catalog dive talking about all of Mo's catalog. We did an album dive on Mo's latest studio release, Circle of Giants. And he joined me this summer for the ultimate concert set list, which is his personal ultimate concert set list. And I'll tell you, Mo is a jam band, but his ultimate concert set list does not jam. It rocks. So if you want to be surprised, check it out. There's a lot of curveballs in that one. It's such a fun conversation. Obviously, Mo, one of my favorite jam bands on the planet. So thankful for his friendship and coming on the show so many times to talk all things Mo. And when season 2 rolls around, I look forward to talking with him again. But with that, we are going to move on to the next track for the ultimate mixtape. And this is from D.T. Carell of Space Castle.
Gut reaction, Whole Lotta Rosie by AC/DC.
Wow.
So I grew up with parents who, were teenagers in the 70s and 80s, and they were really big into hard rock and whatnot. So I was essentially raised on it. But Whole Lotta Rosie is the song that's always stuck with me, and it's one of my favorites of all time, because every time we get to that solo by Angus Young, I get goosebumps still to this day. It's one of the reasons why I love hard rock. It's one of the reasons why AC/DC is one of my favorite bands of all time. And that song is quintessential to why I just love music and guitar and rock and roll in general.
Yes, you heard that correct. We are going back to back AC/DC to kick things off tonight. Back in Black, followed by Whole Lotta Rosie. Whole Lotta Rosie is such a killer song. I love when Guns N' Roses redid it. there's just something, it's so down and dirty, and it's everything you love about the AC/DC sound. So I love the pick. DT is killing it over on YouTube at Space Castle. If you are into nerd and geek culture, video games, toys, movies, cartoons, TV shows, DT is your guy. A lot of fun stuff going on over there. He produces such great content. You'll be thankful you watched it. So be sure to check out Space Castle over on YouTube and let him know that Brian Colburn from My Weekly Mixtape sent you. All right, a double dose of AC/DC to kick things off. Where do we go from here? Now, in this list of the songs that made you fall in love with music, some people gave more than one answer. They answered both sides of it. So with that said, that adds another complex challenge to this, and that is trying to put in songs that might not go together, such as this first of two picks from CJ Pierce of Drowning Pool.
Well, I'm going to be honest. It's funny because the Eurovision movie's playing right now, but I can't lie. My first time like just comprehending music as a very young child. My dad had this big stereo and an 8-track recorder, and he put in the ABBA 8-track, and Dancing Queen came on, and that's my first thing I ever remember hearing music-wise. Like, what is this? That's why I crack up with that movie, because he's up there just like, what is this I'm dancing? It's ABBA, but it's ABBA. I mean, you can't deny it. ABBA's freaking amazing. But that's one thing. And then, dude, like Led Zeppelin, man, like never gets old. That was a big impression for me as well, because my dad played bass and sang, and he was all about the Led Zeppelin. So it was ABBA and Led Zeppelin. But anything from Led Zeppelin, man. Rock and roll was just such a big influence. That song still gets me going. Like it's forever. Just something about it, man. Maybe it just amps me up. It's timeless, man.
So there you have it. In This World, AC/DC twofer, followed by ABBA's Dancing Queen, followed by Led Zeppelin's Rock and Roll. And you know what? I dig it. And I bet some of you out there are going, wait, what? But yeah, that's the beauty of a mixtape. It could be whatever you want. These are songs that made you fall in love with music. There are no right or wrong answers here. I love it. 2 shots of AC/DC followed by ABBA and Led Zeppelin. Let's do this. And you know what? Let's make that a double shot of AC/DC followed by ABBA and a double shot of Led Zeppelin, as next up is Kevin Brown of the Tom Petty Project with his pick for the ultimate mixtape.
I'm going to go, this one's easy for me.
Okay.
Black Dog by Led Zeppelin, because when I heard that riff kick in, that was when I knew, oh, this is the music that I want to listen to for the rest of my life. I want to listen to rock and roll. It was that visceral, immediate, my blood started pumping, my adrenaline was up, and at 5, 6, 7 years old, however old I was, wearing huge headphones sitting in front of my mum and dad's vinyl player with a dirty, ratty box full of vinyl records, put that on, and it changed my life. Like that, absolutely, it was when I knew what kind of music I wanted to listen to for the rest of my life. So Black Dog by Led Zeppelin, easy one.
If you're a Tom Petty fan, be sure to check out all the things Kevin has going on over at the Tom Petty Project. You'll be thankful you did. A lot of great stories, a lot of great interviews and discussions over there. Kevin joined me on the Ultimate Tom Petty playlist, so be sure to check that out in the archives if you want to hear a conversation about all things Tom Petty, Mudcrutch, Traveling Wilburys, and obviously the Heartbreakers. We cover it all. Be sure to check that one out. But next up on the Ultimate Mixtape, we have comedian Don Jameson and host of the Rockstrap podcast with his pick to follow up a double shot of AC/DC, ABBA, and a double shot of Led Zeppelin. Where do we go from here?
Oh boy. Well, I have to go back to the first heavy rock song that I ever heard in my life, and it's Detroit Rock City. I mean, it can't be stated the impact that it had on me and has had on me over the years, because without putting the needle into those grooves and hearing that song, I would probably be listening to the music that my parents used to have in their album collection, which was I think the heaviest album they had on in their collection was Roberta Flack. So it's funny because I can never remember exactly how I saw Kiss, but I did, and I'm so glad that I convinced my mom to go get me Destroyer. And like I said, when I put it on, it instantly changed my life. So it's that song.
Don is an incredibly funny comedian. Make sure to check out his latest comedy album, No Sleep Till McSorley's, which you can find on all of the streaming sites, as well as on both of the episode pages that Don joined me for in the archives. I've got it there. Plus, if you want to buy physical copies as well, they're available at Experience Vinyl. All right, so we got Kiss in the mix. Where do we go from here? There's still a lot of rock to cover. There's a lot of people chimed in with rock this time around. So we're going to stay in that tone and go with this pick from Coco Kinnan of Winona Fighter.
Makes me fall in love with music over and over again. And I think it has to be, oh man, I mean, I gotta go with my favorite band. Every time I hear Best of You by the Foo Fighters, I'm like just blown away. Which, Dave's in a little bit of trouble right now, so I don't condone that. Let me just say that right now. I don't condone his actions, but that's a beautiful song.
So that made both the ultimate mixtape that you put into a time capsule and the song that made you fall in love with music.
I mean, just goosebumps every time.
What can I say about Winona Fighter? One of my favorite albums of 2025 thus far. My apologies to the chef. If you have not heard this album, this is female-fronted pop punk. This is everything I love about 90s pop punk and 2000s pop punk and 2010s pop punk and modern pop punk all rolled into one. They are so much fun. They are so incredible live, and they are blowing up this year. They've already announced a deluxe edition of the album that's coming out later this year. So this is the year that Winona Fighter hit the scene and hit the scene hard, and there's a reason for it. Be sure to check out their music. And Coco was a guest twice on my weekly mixtape. One, to create the ultimate 90s punk rock playlist with me, and two, to do an album dive on My Apologies to the Chef. So if you want to hear an episode where you can hear the songs and the stories behind them, be sure to check that one out in the archives. And man, you know what? We had a twofer followed by a single band, followed by a twofer, followed by a single band. We're going to follow it with another twofer, as Patreon mixtaper Tom Hutchinson also chose the Foo Fighters for his pick for the ultimate mixtape.
All right, Brian. Hi, my weekly mixtape gang. Hey, I'm Tom Hutchinson, and I am here to talk about the song that made me fall in love with music. And that song would be Everlong by the Foo Fighters. This is one of the first songs I ever remember hearing in my childhood. It's probably about 3-4 years old. And I remember hearing this song on the Riff here in Detroit, very famous rock station, with my dad. And I remember just having that guitar riff burned into my head as a little kid for many years. And I didn't know what the song was until I got a little bit older. And I came across the song when I was doing a report on Nirvana, and I figured out that Dave Grohl was in Nirvana and in the Foo Fighters. This had to be about 6th grade when I was figuring this out, and I fell in love with this song, fell in love with the Color and the Shape album, and I ended up listening to that song non-stop after that. It's became one of my favorite songs, and it has opened me up to so many different musical artists, from the Butthole Surfers to Modest Mouse to anything that was played on alternative radio, at that time in the 90s and early 2000s. It's a fantastic song, and it means so much to me. And the music video version of it is way better than the radio version. It has the extended loop of the guitar breakdown at the end, and it always makes me so happy to hear that version. But if it wasn't for Everlong by the Foo Fighters, who knows what my musical taste would be. I also want to say cheers to you, Brian, and congratulations on a wonderful show. It's been nothing but an honor to be a guest on it, and I wish you nothing but the best, my friend. Cheers.
Everlong, I know that could be seen as a side closer or a cassette closer. So yeah, we're not even anywhere near the ending of this thing yet. And I love the pick, and I love it fitting in right here after Best of You from Coco Kinnan. So Tom, I want to thank you sincerely for all the support you've shown My Weekly Mixtape over the years, all the great conversations we've had in the Patreon forums, as well as on social media. Thank you for listening, and thank you for being a part of this community. It truly means the world to me. And now we've had 2 bands, followed by a band, followed by 2 bands, followed by a band, followed by 2 bands, followed by a band. And this pick comes from John Laurie, drummer for Tantric and Smile Empty Soul. Let's hear what he's got to say with his choice for the ultimate mixtape.
Putting me on the spot again. Hold on. Let me think of it. Geez. Okay, I'll just go with it because it was the thing that introduced me to music in general, and I think it's one of the best drum parts ever. I'm going to go with Follow You Home by Nickelback. That was the song that drum-wise, I was like, oh, this is cool. This is something that I want to try to be able to do. And Daniel Adair, being just one of the most phenomenal drummers ever, does such a great job on this opening track of the newest record that he got to be a part of, All the Right Reasons record. So yeah, I'm going with Follow You Home.
All right, we're getting into modern hard rock with some Nickelback there. Obviously, if you do not follow John's Drum Studio, which is JONS Drum Studio on social media, make sure to do it on Instagram, on TikTok. He posts some incredibly fun content. If you're a musician or a fan of music, you don't want to miss that follow. You'll be thankful you did. John was a guest so many times on My Weekly Mixtape through the run. Go back into the archives and check out any of the episodes he's been on. It's been truly a pleasure talking music with him, and I look forward to talking more music with him when we start rolling around season 2 here down the road. But up next, we have a chance at another twofer, and you're getting another twofer, except it's not another Nickelback song. It's 2 different submissions for the ultimate mixtape, filed by one Mr. Barry Kirch of Shinedown. Let's hear what he has to say.
That's not a fair question at all. Oh shit. We didn't grow up with a lot of music in the house because my mom doesn't like loud noises, so it was always listened to in the headphones. So my dad being on his headphones, and so would my brother. But I have an older brother who pretty much turned me on to music. I'm gonna have to give a 2-part answer. I have to. Initially, I would say it would have been Def Leppard's Pyromania, the opening track on that record, and I'm blanking on the name right now because my brother gave me the tape. And
you're talking rock till you drop.
Yes, that's the one. Thank you. Because I kept stealing all of his tapes and stuff. And he gave me that one summer, and I listened to it, and I was in the little tree house. I was very young. I was probably 8, 9 years old when that record came out. And I was like, this is it. This is it for me. It was, Def Leppard was the first concert I ever went to on the Hysteria run.
Nice.
It changed my mind. And then this band out of England called The Police. We had a friend of ours, a family friend. Her daughter was I grew up in Panama City, Florida. The daughter was a college girl at the time, came to spring break in Panama City with her college friends, and they stayed at our house. And I was a young kid. And they turned the stereo on. My mother begrudgingly let them play loud music, which is not typically allowed. And they started playing The Police. And I went, what's this? That one changed me because that wouldn't have been played by my brother, wouldn't have been played by anyone else. I might have heard it on the radio, but I was such a metalhead at that time. When I heard The Police and I heard the drumming of Stuart Copeland, I went, this is different. And at that time, I was already playing drums. So I was hook, line, and sinker.
Was there a specific song from The Police that you really...
What was the song at that time? I want to say it was Wrapped Around Your Finger and that snare. It just like took my head off. I was like, what is this? It was that, and then Spirits in the Material World. One of those 2 songs.
And then as a drummer yourself, I would love to know your thoughts on Stuart, because we're pretty similar in age. My first concert was David Lee Roth and Poison on the Skyscraper tour. So I wasn't too far. I was a little bit behind you, but Diamond Dave was still out there playing mostly Van Halen and a couple of solo things at the time.
Right.
But there was always something about Stuart Copeland's drumming that was hypnotic. It was heavy, but it was also nuanced, and he's a very unexplainable drummer. When I try to explain the mastery of Stuart Copeland, I have a hard time doing it. As a drummer yourself who has found a lot of success in music, How would you describe him?
He didn't give two shits. And I think that's what made him great. He still is great. He was a lead drummer. He's the polar opposite of me. He played on top of the music, but it felt so good because he's a punk rock guy and listened to a lot of reggae, and those two things came together, and it was like his style. He plays like Stuart Copeland, much in the vein of somebody like Mitch Mitchell from Jimi Hendrix or Keith Moon who unabashedly played whatever the hell they wanted, and the band better just hold on for dear life. And that's why he and Sting never got along. You know, the reason Sting and Stewart just hated each other is because Sting is a perfect song craftsman, but he expects perfection. And Stewart is like, that's not me, buddy. I'm going to play it the way I feel tonight, and it's going to be my tempo, and you better hold on, Sting. You better follow. And they fight like cats and dogs. And Stewart would be the first one to admit that to this day. You know, the reason they didn't get along is because Stewart doesn't give a fuck.
Well, I guess it's safe then to say it's good that you and Eric are able to work so well together as the backdrop for Shinedown.
Absolutely. We are a different animal by far.
Def Leppard's Rock Rock Till You Drop and the Police's Wrapped Around Your Finger. Now, believe it or not, coming out of Nickelback, it actually works in playlist form because you've got the modern hard rock of Nickelback's Follow You Home, easing back into the 80s hard rock of Def Leppard, and then taking you out of the hard rock side of things into the Police's Wrapped Around Your Finger, which leaves the door open to go into some different directions. So I do want to say I got a chance this summer to meet up with both Barry and Eric Bass of Shinedown, as well as Brent and Zach at their first ever headlining show at Madison Square Garden this summer. It was truly an honor to be a part of that evening. It was a chance to shake their hands and thank them for all the incredible music they do. Eric's got his solo album out, I Had a Name. Be sure to check that out. It is an incredibly fun concept album. Shinedown is working on Shinedown 8, but has 3 songs out right now: Killing Fields, 365, and Dance Kid Dance, which is also the name of the tour that they're currently out on in support of 20 plus years of Shinedown and some incredible music. They put on one hell of a performance, and I'll throw up some pics from that meet and greet over on the episode page. Barry and Eric, thank you both so much for being a part of the My Weekly Mixtape catalog, and thank you even more so for the music. But I should add, don't worry, Eric Bass's pick is coming up later in the evening tonight. But coming out of the Police's Wrapped Around Your Finger, we could go a little deeper now into this classic rock territory. So I think we're going to do that with this pick for the ultimate mixtape from Chris Ballou of the Presidents of the United States of America.
I mean, the song that pops into my mind is More Than a Feeling by Boston. I feel like that song, and it's not like I want to make music like that, but I just feel like it's some sort of, has some like leveling effect on me, like where when I listen to it, I just feel, you know what it is? I feel completely taken care of. Like there's no bum notes. There's no sonic friction that isn't pleasant. There's no distortion that isn't harmonically rich. You know, I want to make music and I want to listen to music that cuddles me with harmony. Like I'm not into difficult music or somebody who's willfully out of tune, or the music is abrasive in a way that's supposed to make you think, well, it's difficult to listen to, so it must be important or whatever. You know what I mean? Like that dynamic is totally not what I want to do. I want a bath of harmony, and that's what More Than a Feeling does. Every time I listen to it, I'm like, take me away.
The Presidents of the United States of America celebrates its 30th anniversary this year, and there is a full 30th anniversary album dive episode with Chris over in the episode archives. Be sure to check that one out. Going down memory lane, talking about everything you would love to know about the Presidents of the United States of America. And yes, folks, we talk about Weird Al's Gump as well. So be sure to check that one out. And while we're on the subject of Boston's More Than a Feeling, one of the first guitar parts I ever learned on acoustic guitar, by the way, I should add, we're going to stay in that classic rock vein and go with my friend Dave Zalatoris, who is host of the Beer in Front podcast, with his pick for the ultimate mixtape.
Thanks, Brian, for having me on. The question, what song has made me fall in love with music over and over again every time I hear it, is a song that we both have actually discussed before back when you were on my show a couple years back. We were talking about the year 1971 in music. The song I'm choosing is L.A. Woman from the Doors. I've loved that song from the first time I've heard it. Had to be on classic rock radio in Chicago, you know, back around 1980, 1981, when the Doors made this like resurgence after Jim was on the cover of Rolling Stone magazine. And it just blew me away. And every time I hear it, you pick up little things about the song. And it's just like, even though you've heard it 1,000 times before, it still always sounds fresh to me. And, you know, doing some research on the song, like when we spoke earlier to now, that, you know, the addition of a bass player on that song was really important. Jerry Sheff, who was in Elvis's band, and going over his bio, all of the people that Jerry Sheff played with is just amazing in itself, but he really added another layer to the LA Woman song. Everything about that song is great, from Ray's keyboards to John's drumming, Robbie's guitar work. It's just a phenomenal song. I think I read somewhere where Robbie Krieger said that LA Woman is the essential Doors song, and I completely agree. I just listened to it now before I'm recording this, and it's even now just completely like blows me away. So I appreciate you having me on to talk about, you know, music. I appreciate everything you've done, our friendship over the years with various podcast projects. I wish you all the best. I love you, my brother. Take care of yourself. That's the most important thing. And I'm sure we will see each other down the road. Take care, Brian. Love you, my man.
If you are a beer fan, be sure to check out Beer in Front on all of your favorite podcast providers. I have had some fun conversations with Dave over the years, dating all the way back to my days with Playlist Wars, as well as during my Weekly Mixtapes run. I appreciate his friendship. He has an incredible podcast over there, especially if you're a beer fanatic. He's got his finger on the pulse of all things beer, and it's right in front of him, just like the name says. So be sure to check it out. And I thank you, Dave, for your friendship and for the incredible conversations we've had, and for being such a huge supporter of my Weekly Mixtape over the years. It really means the world to me. Now, with that, we're going to stay in this classic rock vibe, and we're going to go with this pick from Jim Butler of Children of the 80s.
So I'm going to go back to the very first song that I remember hearing. I'm going to go with Dream On by Aerosmith. It was released the year of my birth, but then it was re-released again in 1976. So I would have been about two and a half. And my parents said they will both claim now, even though they're divorced, they claim that I would be standing up in between them in the car when that music playing, just rocking back and forth, saying Dream On over and over again as I'm crying. I guess because it just touched me so much, the song just touched me so much that I would be crying and singing at the same time. And so that is the song, I think, that made me at least fall in love with music. I probably don't love it as much as I used to, but I still do love it. And to hear them do it in concert, the first time I saw them in concert was amazing. And then the second time I saw them in concert, they're a little bit older. It wasn't quite as good, but it was still pretty good.
Another absolute anthem, Aerosmith's Dream On. This would definitely make my list for one of the songs that made me fall in love with music. I remember very vividly getting Aerosmith's greatest hits on cassette from a Kmart in North Jersey as a kid, and I played that thing on an endless loop, and Dream On became just an absolute favorite of mine. I love the pick, and I can't say enough great things about Children of the 80s, and I'm going to put a pin in that because Lindsay Butler's up a little later on in the episode with her pick for the Ultimate Mixtape, so be sure to check out Children of the 80s, and I'll plug them again a little later on. But with that, moving on from Dream On, we're going to go with Cody Hansen of Hinder's pick for the Ultimate Mixtape.
That's a really tough one. I would say a song called Shooting Star by Bad Company. That song is, I would say that's the song that got me back into rock music whenever I was younger. Like I said, I had older siblings, and they were really into like rap, gangster rap, So whenever I was a little kid, I was running around listening to things I shouldn't have been listening to. Two Live Crew, NWA, so I was really into that. And whenever I heard Shooting Star for the first time, everything changed. That was the first time I'd really heard a rock song that told a story almost like a movie. When you're listening to the song, you can see the entire thing playing out in front of you. And I thought that was really cool. It was the first time like I said, first time I'd heard anything like that. So that's one song that does that for me.
Hinder's new album, Back to Life, is really, really incredible. Bring Me Back to Life has been at the top of my 2025 playlist the entire year. Be sure to check out this album. There's so many great things going on in the Hinder camp. This is also the 20th anniversary of Extreme Behavior, and we talk about both the anniversary of that album as well as Back to Life in the album dive episode that you can find in the My Weekly Mixtape archives. Cody, thank you so much for being a part of this show. Now, you went with Shooting Star from Bad Company, and that's a song that I used to listen to a lot with my folks growing up. Big Bad Company and Free fans, a lot of that classic rock stuff. So for the next choice for the ultimate mixtape, I'm actually going to chime in now with my pick because I feel like coming out of Shooting Star by Bad Company, my pick fits quite well. And that pick is Peter Frampton's Do You Feel Like I Do from Frampton Comes Alive. Now, why did this song make me fall in love with music? When I was a kid, I listened to anything my parents put on, and they would let me put on my albums, my Alvin and the Chipmunks, the Muppets, but I was always intent on hearing whatever they wanted to put on too. And all the songs that they played eventually ended up in some way, shape, or form becoming some of my favorite songs of all time. And Do You Feel Like I Do was truly the first long song that I ever fell in love with, a song that stretched well beyond 10 minutes. I think that version was over 13 on the original album. And it kept my attention the entire time. I would sit in front of the stereo just staring at the record, spinning round and round and round. With that, I'm also going to make a confession that you could laugh at me if you want. I understand, but I was a kid at the time. So are you going to laugh at a child for having an imagination? Shame on you. But when I was a kid growing up listening to Peter Frampton's Do You Feel Like I Do, I legitimately thought when I closed my eyes that a guitar walked out on stage and started talking to Peter Frampton. And it wasn't until I got older and saw how he pulled it off that magic was ruined. But as a child, this song just captured my attention. And I would always ask my father if he could put on the talking guitar song next. So for him and for this ultimate mixtape, one of the songs that truly made me fall in love with music is Peter Frampton's Do You Feel Like I Do? So with that, we are going to round out side A of this ultimate mixtape, the songs that make you fall in love with music. Yeah, it's an 120-minute here because we got to fit a lot of songs. There's actually more than 15 songs for side B, but because of the length for Do You Feel Like I Do being the penultimate song on side A, I feel like I'm okay having a couple of extra tracks on side B. But with that said, here is Patreon mixtaper Brandon from Virginia's pick for the ultimate mixtape.
Oh, that is a hard question, my friend. I've got to, I think I might have to look at my Spotify list and find what's my most played song ever. Does that show that here? I would have to say the song that brings it back all the time, if I'm going to have to listen to a song over and over again, I might actually have to say The Wait. The band song The Wait.
Ooh, good pick.
There's so many covers of it. Country, rock, reggae. It's just known throughout the world. And again, that feeling of take a load off and put the load on me, being there for someone. I have spent my entire adult life working with and for nonprofit organizations. And that's the feeling I get. We are the reason why I'm doing this is to help someone take the load off. Let me help you. I mean, I am civic association president for my neighborhood. Why? Because I want to help people. I work for a public television station because public television helps people. I used to work for the National Multiple Sclerosis Society because what does it do? It helps people who have a chronic illness. So that song, The Weight, the band, Robbie Robertson wrote that, and it just blew up from that moment on that it was released.
I mean, what better way to close out side A than with the band? When I got to see the Love for Levon concert with my father back in 2012, this closed out the whole show with all the musicians on stage. And it was such a powerful, beautiful moment seeing all that talent come together on this incredibly amazing song that just encapsulates everything that's so amazing about music. It's just something you want to sing along with. The harmonies are beautiful. The music is lush. The guitars, everything about it just comes together in perfect harmony, if you will. And there's something about this that feels like the perfect exclamation point for side A of the Ultimate Mixtape, the songs that made you fall in love with music, which kicked off with AC/DC's Back in Black, submitted by Jim Laughlin of Mo, AC/DC's Whole Lotta Rosie, submitted by DT Carroll of Space Castle, ABBA's Dancing Queen and Led Zeppelin's Rock and Roll, submitted by CJ Pierce of Drowning Pool, Led Zeppelin's Black Dog, submitted by Kevin Brown of the Tom Petty Project, Kiss's Detroit Rock City, submitted by Don Jameson of Rockstrap, Foo Fighters' Best of You, submitted by Coco Kinnan of Winona Fighter, Foo Fighters' Everlong, submitted by Patreon mixtaper Tom Hutchinson, Nickelback's Follow You Home, submitted by John Laurie of Tantric and Smile Empty Soul, Def Leppard's Rock Rock Till You Drop, and The Police's Wrapped Around Your Finger, submitted by Barry Kirch of Shinedown, Boston's More Than a Feeling, submitted by Chris Ballou of the Presidents of the United States of America, The Doors' LA Woman, submitted by Dave Zalatoris of Beer in Front, Aerosmith's Dream On, submitted by Jim Butler of Children of the 80s, Bad Company's Shooting Star, submitted by Cody Hansen of Hinder, Peter Frampton's Do You Feel Like I Do, submitted by yours truly, and the band's The Weight, submitted by Patreon mixtaper Brandon from Virginia. Head over to myweeklymixtape.com to hear all the songs we've discussed in this mix through the playlist embedded on the episode page. All right, and here we go. A supersized side B for this Ultimate Mixtape, the songs that made you fall in love with music. And we're going to kick off side B with Doug Aldrich of the Dead Daisies pick for the Ultimate Mixtape.
I would probably choose a random track that doesn't have any words in it, and it doesn't need any words in it. It's Jeff Beck on Blow by Blow, Because We Ended as Lovers.
Oh, my God.
And it just, the guitar playing on that is just incredible. And for the first time I heard it, I was blown away. And every time I hear it, I'm blown away. I love it. I love the clarity on that song. You can hear every little thing that his fingers are doing, and the melody is amazing. It's just the perfect rock guitar song, the rock guitar ballad, And like I say, there's a lot of songs we've heard a million times, songs that are great songs, Hotel California or Comfortably Numb or whatever, and they got great guitar parts in them and everything. But sometimes it's like, okay, I've heard this song enough. But I know that lyric. I know it. It's like on the dark desert highway, But with Because We Ended as Lovers, it never gets old.
What a way to kick off side B. Jeff Beck, Cause We Ended as Lovers. I absolutely adore this song. The version he does from Ronnie Scott's with Tal Wilkenfeld on bass is one of those make the hair on your arm stand up instrumental songs. Just tells you a story and grabs your attention, and it demands your attention. It doesn't grab it. It demands it for the entire way through. Unbelievable pick. Absolutely love the song. And the Dead Daisies, Looking for Trouble. If you're a fan of blues rock and cover songs, as you know, I'm a huge cover songs nut, go back in the album archives, as there is an album dive into Looking for Trouble with Doug. We dive into a ton of great blues rock stories and some of the things he's got going on in the Dead Daisies camp, as well as his time with Whitesnake, Dio, and yes, we talk about Lions, Transformers, the movie theme song, because Come on, it's Soundwave. Why wouldn't I talk about that? Anyway, Doug Aldrich of the Dead Daisies back in the episode archive. Be sure to check that out. Up next for the Ultimate Mixtape, the songs that made you fall in love with music, is Chris Voss of the Record Company.
Oh, what a great question. And you fall in love with music over and over again. Drown in My Own Tears by Ray Charles.
Wow.
It's so profoundly emotional that it carries inside of it the depth of whether you're covering the Stooges, or you're in a punk band, or you're in a metal band, or you're in a gospel choir. It's one of those songs that's at the hinge point of the beginning. And if you play that song for anybody, they're going to get it to some level, because everything blossoms from those eras, the late 40s, early 50s. But for me, it's just because it knocks me on my knees every single time I hear it. It just completely destroys me. Ray Charles's voice and his ability to curate emotion. You know, when you think about what a traditional good voice is, his voice is obviously not just good, it's great. It's just it's so him. You can just hear, yeah, and you'd be like, that's Ray Charles.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? There's a uniqueness. So, and the brevity of him to come over what he did. But even if I had never heard any of his story, that song would still just drop me. And that I loved that album, or that era of him, his Atlantic years, which was documented in the movie. But I got into it when I was about 17, because my mom, who loves music, she'd say, like, what do you want for your birthday? I'm like, anything by, I'd find an artist and be like, oh, maybe Ray Charles. She bought me the box set of the Atlantic years.
Nice.
I listened to that in that first 6 months. My friends were all listening to rock and roll, and I was just listening to Ray Charles over and over and over and over. And Muddy Waters box set over and over and over, and Patsy Cline over and over. Because I love singers, man. I'm a guitar player, but singing is why I'm in this business. I sit here and I practice my guitar probably 3 times more than I sing. Singing came kind of naturally to me, but the guitar playing is like something I really work at. But I've never been one to be like, oh, I'm going to sit down and learn these solos. But I have been one to sit down and go, like, how do you find what they're doing? Like, what makes the hair on people's arms stand up? So there you go. That was a great question.
Another amazingly fun episode in the archives. Chris came and did a full catalog dive interview with me. If you want to hear all the great things that are going on in the Record Company camp, that is the episode to check out. If you haven't heard the Record Company before, remedy that. These guys are so good and so much fun, and they are carrying the torch for what modern blues rock is going to sound like moving forward. I absolutely love what these guys are doing, and I hope you get a chance to check it out. Ray Charles, Drown in My Own Tears, coming out of that heartstringing tug of 'Cause We Ended as Lovers from Jeff Beck. I mean, we're going a little emotional here to start side B. So where do we go from here? Let's try with Greg Vorob's pick for the Ultimate Mixtape.
I am going to answer the question, what song can I hear that makes me fall in love with music again over and over? And the one that comes at the top of my head is REM's At My Most Beautiful. And the reason that I choose that one is because the first time I heard that song, it's the song that made me realize that I was in love for the very first time. So my choice is REM At My Most Beautiful.
REM. I was wondering when we would get something from them in this episode. I had a feeling that this is a band that a lot of people have a favorite song from, and I'm so glad that they are included in this mix because we haven't talked about them as much on my weekly mixtape as I would like to. Hopefully when season 2 rolls around, I will make that happen. REM At My Most Beautiful. Thank you so much for chiming in, Greg. I appreciate your friendship and the support that you've given the show over the years. Be sure to check out Real Reactions. That's REEL Reactions at your favorite podcast providers to hear what Greg's got going on over there. Really fun show. Be sure to check it out. And with that, I actually have another pick that I think is going to fit perfectly coming out of REM's At My Most Beautiful. And that pick comes courtesy of Paul Jackson of Blackberry Smoke.
Oh my God. Okay. All right, well, we're going to go with my favorite band on planet Earth. I'm going to go with Journey. And that's a hard one because I like every single thing they've done. I mean, Don't Stop Believing's overplay, I'm in
Of course.
separate ways. But God, I mean, even from Cookie Duster from before Steve Perry was the band, some good stuff. What song do I think? I think, this is so hard. Still They Ride.
Nice.
I don't know if any of you listeners have heard it, and go listen to it. Listen to the piano, listen to the bass, listen to the guitar, listen to the drums. I mean, listen to it that many times. There's 5 people in the band. Listen to it and focus on each one of those individuals. And come on, Steve Perry. Come on. He's just one of the greatest singers literally of all time. Because he learned from by listening to some of the best. Sam Cooke. There's a lot of Sam Cooke in his voice.
Oh yeah, definitely.
He loves R&B, and they're such a great band, man. I mean, I challenge anybody who thinks differently. They're so good, But there's also other bands that are stomp ass good too. So, but that's just personally for me growing up. When I heard Still They Ride, I was like, what? Whoa. And then I delved back in their catalog, and this is like, every single thing is killer. They all have good voices. It's just, shame that they, what's going on right now. But I mean, not shame, but I don't know. I want to see him again live. That's all.
Still They Ride from Journey. Going with something off of Escape that's not Don't Stop Believing is a bold move, and I applaud it. Stone in Love got spoken about on the first Ultimate Mixtape, courtesy of Drew from Sister Hazel, and now they're represented today via Paul Jackson of Blackberry Smoke. And Blackberry Smoke and Sister Hazel are pretty good friends there on the music scene, so quite serendipitous, if I do say so myself. Blackberry Smoke, obviously one of the best live Southern rock bands on the planet. And I say obviously because to me, it is obvious. They are unfriggin' believable live. Be sure to check out Paul's episode, The Ultimate Blackberry Smoke Playlist. It's back in the archives. We build a 20-song Blackberry Smoke playlist. And I'd like to hope that I was able to keep up with him because, he actually plays on the songs and I'm just here talking about them. So hopefully I was able to keep up. Go back and check that out in the archives and let me know for yourself, myweeklymixtape@gmail.com. But with that, I had mentioned them earlier with Jim Butler. Now it's time for Lindsay Butler of Children of the 80s to chime in with her pick for the Ultimate Mixtape.
Okay. So I know Jim's going to roll his eyes, and I hope, Brian, you don't make fun of me.
I would never.
The song that made me fall in love with music, Look Away by Chicago.
Oh.
I don't know. There was something about it. I was in the 4th grade when it came out. It was played all the time on the radio. I can't explain my love for this song, but it is strong and it's held up for 40 years. I don't know. No, not 40 years, 30 years, a really long time.
Lindsay, I think you'll be happy to know that I'm trying to think of the year that this came out. That was 1988. So 11-year-old Brian had Look Away on 45.
Really?
Hand to God.
We could have been friends.
Once again, you can find Children of the 80s on all of your favorite podcast providers. They have such a fun show over there. I was fortunate to be a guest on their Weird Al episode, and both Jim and Lindsay joined me for the Ultimate 80s Music Videos playlist, which is such a fun episode. Be sure to check that out if you want to hear my weekly mixtape go visual in an audio sense. Really fun episode. Be sure to keep up with what they've got going on over there. You'll be happy you did. And up next, we are going to stay with this 80s vibe as country artist Carrie Cunningham chimes in with her choice for the Ultimate Mixtape.
Well, the first song that ever made me really fall in love with music was Man Eater by Hall & Oates.
Really?
It's not country, but yeah. Yep. I got a clock radio when I was 8 years old, and we were in Nebraska, and the channel played all different kinds of music. So it didn't matter what genre it was. And I just remember laying in bed one night and hearing that song come on, and the lyrics and the music, the way that the bass played and the sax came in. And then when the lyrics hit, all I could see was like this woman and to my little 8-year-old brain was like in a dark alley and she was turning into a tiger and she was attacking men. And that is like, whoa, that's really cool. And so that's what kind of got me started on my whole music journey. And I still love that song to this day.
It was such a delight having Carrie on 2 of my country-themed episodes, the Ultimate Modern Female Country Artists Playlist episode, as well as the Ultimate 90s Country Music episode. If you're a country fan, be sure to go check out both of those episodes in the archive. You'll be happy you did. And be sure to keep in touch with what Carrie's got going on in her musical career over at carrielive.com. She's got an incredible voice, and you'll be happy you did. But with that, we are moving on to, and again, I pinch myself that I get to say this, but this choice for the Ultimate Mixtape from Paul Williams, who is the writer of my favorite song of all time, The Rainbow Connection. And I got to ask him his choice for the song that made him fall in love with music. And I've been holding on to this one since we recorded the episode, which was over 9 months ago. So it's like the birth of this amazing clip that you're about to hear. Here is legendary songwriter Paul Williams' choice for the Ultimate Mixtape.
Well, there's a lot of songs that have been meaningful in my life. There's Leonard Cohen is a remarkable writer, and Jennifer Warnes released an album called My Famous Blue Raincoat. And this is a song you may not know, but I would say listen to it. It's an album that has amazing songs by Leonard Cohen, including Bird on a Wire, Like a Bird on a Wire, Like a Drunken Midnight Choir. I have tried in my ways to be free. I've been the bird and I've been the drunk. So that's a song that is just, for some reason, it's like time travel. It has the loneliness of an early goodbye, and it has the promise of the freedom on the other side of grieving.
What an incredible addition to this Ultimate Mixtape. And when it comes from, again, a songwriter that I have so much respect for, it just adds another exclamation point to it. Paul Williams was my guest at the end of last year for a double album dive that featured discussions on both Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas and the Muppet movie soundtrack, 2 of my favorite soundtracks of my youth. If you are a fan of Emmett Otter's Jug Band Christmas or of the Muppets in general, you do not want to miss this episode. It is one of the highlights of this 150 episode season, if you want to call it. And I am so eternally grateful to Paul for being on the show, as well as to Desmond Child, who was kind enough to connect me with Paul for this opportunity. So thank you to Desmond and for Paul for being on. Following up Bird on a Wire, I actually am going to do a little bit of a pivot here, but I don't know by how much. And I'll be curious what you all think, but I think this is going to work because Patreon mixtaper Chad Lamassa chimed in with this pick for the Ultimate Mixtape.
So this may seem like a cop-out, but I don't really have a song that made me fall in love with music. And any song that kind of grabs me in a certain way, it's really hard to explain. But those are the songs that make me fall in love with music again. And the 2 most recent songs that have done that for me were Bully's Atom Bomb and Shovel and Rope's Love Song from a Dog. With Bully being one of my favorite artists currently, I'm going to pick her song, Atom Bomb.
There you have Bully's Atom Bomb. We're getting something new in the mix, and I love that because this is not just the songs that made you fall in love with music. It's also the songs that make you fall in love with music over and over again every time you hear it. And Bully's Atom Bomb is a perfect example of that. And I'm so glad that Chad brought something new to this mix because it does give the mix a little bit of balance. We got a lot of older stuff in here, but now we're getting some newer stuff, kind of making those musical scales of justice kind of even out a little bit. So bravo. Chad has been a huge supporter of my weekly mixtape and is a huge voice in the Patreon community. I thank you for all of your incredible chime-ins, the incredible conversations we've had on both the Patreon and on the Discord channel, which is going to be remaining open during the pause. So if you are on Discord, come find the My Weekly Mixtape channel. Come join us in the conversation there. And then once the show picks up again, obviously there's all things going on in the Discord over there as well. But again, Chad, thank you so much for everything that you have done to support this show. I appreciate it, and I appreciate your friendship. Now, working our way to something that modern like Bully is tough, but I do have a pick that is more modern from Leah Jones, host of the Struts Life podcast, and we're going to go with her choice for the ultimate mixtape.
Okay. I would have to pick Long Live by Taylor Swift. It will make me cry every single time because it's about the relationship that fans have with their favorite artists and the memories that you make watching them with your friends, not even necessarily with the artist. It's the community that you make around music. Like, if I think about it too much, it makes me really emotional because I've met some amazing people through music and shows and just talking music, and that would be the song that I choose.
So we've got Bully and we've got Taylor Swift. And Taylor Swift, considering side A consisted of a lot of classic rock and a lot of hard rock, I think the closest thing to pop in the modern sense on side A, maybe ABBA. And that was back in the 70s. So we're getting the pop side of Taylor Swift coming out with Long Live. And even though Taylor Swift is now known as more of a pop artist, she did start as country, and Speak Now was one of her country albums. And that gives me the perfect opportunity to pivot into some country music for tonight. So bravo on the pick. And now the pivot happens. So with that, I give you Jesse Jackson, host of Set Lusting Bruce and Perfectly Good podcast, with his choice for the ultimate mixtape.
What song made me fall in love with music? This is a great question, and I think I could give multiple answers. There's certainly what song made me fall in love with the Beach Boys, which is probably I Get Around, because I'd never heard anything that complex. What song made me fall in love with Bruce Springsteen? Probably Born to Run. But what song first made me fall in love with music? And I thought a lot about it, and I think it goes back to the AM radio on my parents' car, which was always turned to a country station. And I think one of the first songs that I knew was something different, and something I kept wanting to hear was Glenn Campbell's Wichita Lineman. I didn't understand what a lineman was, but I did understand the loneliness and the sadness of that song, and I loved listening to it.
Glenn Campbell's Wichita Lineman, Jesse Jackson, Set Lusting Bruce, and Perfectly Good podcast. One of the friendliest podcasters you can meet. He is such a great guy, so knowledgeable about music, so much fun to talk with, such a positive presence in the music podcasting space. So if you're a fan of Bruce Springsteen or John Hyatt, be sure to check out both of his projects. You'll be really thankful you did. I guested on both Set Lusting Bruce and Perfectly Good podcast, and both were really fun conversations. Jesse has guested twice on my weekly mixtape, doing, well, here's a shocker, the ultimate Bruce Springsteen playlist, and along with Sylvan Groth, the ultimate John Hyatt playlist, both of which were a lot of fun and some incredibly in-depth commentary and discussions on both of those incredible songwriters. So Jesse, thank you again. And up next, we've got Patreon mixtaper Philip Bergman's pick for the ultimate mixtape. And I kind of want to lead this with a little bit of a preamble here. Philip likes to try to throw me for a loop with these, and I have a lot of fun with these picks. He threw me a challenging one on episode 100 for the ultimate mixtape, so be sure to go back and check that out. He has also been a guest on our Weird Al episode of my weekly mixtape, as well as the ultimate golden oldies and doo-wop summer playlist, both of which are really fun episodes. Philip is such a great guy to talk with music, one of the biggest supporters since the days of Tune Styles. And he, like I said, he likes to challenge me. So I hear your challenge, and coming out of Wichita Lineman, here is Philip Bergman's pick for the ultimate mixtape.
I think I'm going to take door number one on this question, because I think with the other option, the joy is constantly finding new songs that just keep making you fall in love with music over and over. It's kind of like if you'll forgive the Star Trek reference, it's like the Vulcan idea of idic, in infinite diversity and infinite combinations. And I think that's one of the joys about music that keeps us falling in love, is just the diversity that you can find in it.
Amen.
And so that's a continual process. But I think I'm going to go with one of the earliest musical memories. Going back to, I may have been in kindergarten at this point, or maybe even younger than that, but I remember learning how to use my mom's record player. And she did have some records that were just for kids. I do remember some of those, but I also remember the one record of hers that I loved to play over and over and over again was her anthology, if you will. It's Johnny Horton's Greatest Hits. And there were two songs especially that I really, really loved. But for the purposes of this question, I'm going to go with the closing track on side B of that 33 1/3 album. And that was Johnny Freedom. For those who don't know who Johnny Horton is, he was a 50s country singer. He was nicknamed the Singing Fisherman. Died tragically in 1960 in a car accident. He's best known for his song, The Battle of New Orleans. But Johnny Freedom was just such an amazing song for me as a kid. Nowadays, it might be considered a little problematic because the lyrics are kind of, shall we say, a whitewashing of American history. So, I mean, this was the 80s when I discovered the song that was recorded in the 50s. So hopefully you'll give me some grace there. But I loved the martial beat of the record, the way the background singers were enthusiastically singing about this symbol of America. And I love singing along with just about every song of Johnny's of his later career that I can. I mean, whether it's Think the Bismarck or The Mansion You Stole or Jim Bridger, just Johnny Horton is just one of the earliest musical memories that I really, really cherish. And Johnny Freedom, that kind of march feel to it in a country song, was just a great closer to that anthology. And I still love that song. And You Never Forget Your First Love.
Philip, you'll have to let me know how I did with that one, if you think it lines up well with Wichita Lineman. Appreciate your friendship and all the great conversations we've had all the way back since the Tune Styles days. I think you're one of the few listeners that knows that when I say I'm taking a break, it's not forever. It's going to be a few months, because right after Tune Styles, a few months later came Playlist Wars, and after Playlist Wars, a few months later came My Weekly Mixtape. So hope to see you around when we pick this thing back up down the road, and look forward to some more fun musical conversations with you. Thank you again. But with that, Philip, I think we'll throw another joke in here from the Tune Styles days and bring in Mr. Board Shorts himself, Jay Sweet, as I think his pick for the ultimate mixtape follows up Johnny Freedom pretty well. Let me know what you think. Here's Jay Sweet with his pick for the ultimate mixtape.
That's a good one, Bri. My heart is pulling me toward Music Box Dancer by Frank Mills. I think when we were in our Tune Styles days, I might have explained that's the significance of that song and how that was my mom's, like, I associate that song deeply connected to my mom. So, but hearing that bouncy piano riff, that's a good one, but also Feels So Good by Chuck Mangione. And that's another one that I associate to my early childhood. My parents were still together. Both my dad and my mom agreed on Chuck Mangione. So that was really neat. So as I'm stalling here, I'm just trying to, do I throw in some Air Supply? I don't know. No, I think I'm going to I think Frank Mills' Music Box Dancer wins out. I really do. It's just that snappy, poppy piano bounce. You get all the good feels when you hear that song.
Jay Sweet, my Tune Styles partner in crime, friend for life. Appreciate everything you have done to help this show out. You've earned your board shorts, my friend. Looking forward to many more fun discussions with you down the road. And obviously, if you've heard the name Jay Sweet before, he has been on the show a lot of times. So go back into the catalog and visit all sorts of fun episodes that we've done together, including our most recent ones, the Ultimate Fictional Bands, Volume 1 and 2, the first and only time in My Weekly Mixtape history we were going so hard at Song 20 on Episode 1 that we literally took a 5-minute break and recorded a second episode right after with 20 more fictional bands. Such a fun double episode there, so I hope everyone enjoys that. And with that, another guest of my weekly mixtape who certainly earned his board shorts, that is Jason Whistle, host of It's Not That Bad, and There Can Only Be One, with his choice for the ultimate mixtape.
The question being, the song that made me fall in love with music. And I think my pick is going to maybe throw some of you for a bit of a loop. Anyone who knows me and my music taste, you're expecting me to say something very proggy or maybe something punky or definitely something Canadian. Well, it's none of that. I'm actually going with Brandenburg's Concerto No. 3 by Johann Sebastian Bach. And let me explain why. So in high school, I took 5 years of orchestra. I learned to play bass on an upright bass. This was how I learned how to play bass, and something I still do to this day. And you can imagine that some of the stuff that we played in orchestra class, maybe not the best, maybe not the catchiest, but there was something about Brandenburg's Concerto No. 3, and it just hooked in my brain. And this was, I think, was the first time I had ever really considered a piece of classical music as catchy and earwormy. But yet here it was, and I would be humming along, and it became one of my noodle tunes, because I have a bass guitar, I'm in bands, and I have noodle tunes. And Brandenburg Concerto No. 3 was one of those ones that was just, I would start playing like just noodling around on the bass while you're waiting for everyone else to get ready. And it just happens to be one of those things where I don't think any other classical composition has ever really stuck with me that much. And I know it's a way out there pick, but when you play music, it's going to stick with you a little bit more. This was the first time that a classical piece of music had done that for me. I mean, I could tell you the first song I learned to play on guitar, that was Silent Lucidity from Queensryche. The first song I tried to teach myself on bass by myself, that was Forever by Kiss. But no. Brandenburg Concerto No. 3, Johann Sebastian Bach. This is the song that really made me fall in love, not just with music, but with all music.
I can't say enough good things about Jason, man. From episode 1 all the way till now, thank you for all of the fun conversations we've had. There are so many great episodes in the My Weekly Mixtape archives for anyone that wants to hear some fun, irrelevant, and kind of off the beaten path episodes. We did short songs where we tried to keep the song choices as short as humanly possible. That's a really fun one. We did the ultimate 90s Canadian artists playlist. That was a lot of fun. I mean, any episode that features Jason Whistle is going to be fun. Be sure to check out It's Not That Bad, and There Can Only Be One at notthatbadcast.com or wherever you find your favorite podcasts. But with that, we've gone somehow into classical music, and I don't quite know how to pull us out of there. However, there is a song that I think, if there was a song in this list that bridged that gap, this would be the song to do it. So with that, I give you Tim Foreman of Switchfoot's choice for the ultimate mixtape.
I'd probably say Strawberry Fields. I mean, I'm an absolute Beatles fanatic, but I think that song just kind of checks every box for me. Just some of the most adventurous chord choices. It just makes me feel the things that no other song has quite done before. It's very mysterious, it's mean, but yet it's also bright, and I mean, just total journey.
Tim was a guest on the Song Dive episode of Switchfoot and Buddy Guy, Last Man Standing. Be sure to check that episode out in the archives. Tim also has Bongo Chico that he's out supporting this year, as well as new Switchfoot music coming your way soon. So be sure to be on the lookout for those. Now on side B, we haven't had a double dose of bands yet. And we're not going to have a double dose of bands per se, but we are going to have a double dose of Beatles per se, as following up Tim Foreman of Switchfoot is Steve Bowman of Counting Crows with his choice for the ultimate mixtape.
Wow, that's so hard because after the podcast, I'll think of the one I should have said. But I'll just go with an obvious one because Imagine is a song that I have listened to and thought about and contemplated, pondered, and just I think it's the most beautiful lyric, progression, melody, sentiment. I just think the song Imagine by John Lennon keeps getting better the more I hear it. There's a lot of Beatles songs that do, but if I have to pick one, I'm going to go with that.
So call that a double dose of the Beatles, if you will. John Lennon's Imagine, a classic rock staple, a music staple as far as I'm concerned. And yeah, we have a double dose of the Beatles. And I just want to say Steve was such an incredible guest, doing an entire August and Everything After album dive with me, which you can find in the archives. That Counting Crows album is probably one of my favorite albums of the 90s. And to be able to hear the stories behind so many of the great songs from that with one of the people responsible was another highlight of my weekly mixtape. And with that, I mentioned this band earlier, but we are going back to Shinedown. I've been on a Shinedown kick, man, this whole year, having them twice on the show, getting to see their first ever performance in Madison Square Garden, headlining. It was just unbelievable night. But Eric has a song that when you say to yourself, how do you follow up a double dose of the Beatles? There's not many songs that can do that. But I think Eric's pick does that. So with that being said, here is Eric Bass's pick for the ultimate mixtape.
The first thing, it wasn't the thing that made me fall in love with music, but every time I hear this song, it makes me fall in love with music over and over again, is God Only Knows by the Beach Boys. You know, they say by the Beach Boys, quote unquote, but, you know, Brian Wilson, of course. It's just, it's a study in the fact that no one knows the anatomy of a hit song. No one can tell you what the anatomy of a hit is. Everyone thinks they can. Everyone thinks that they can tell you what it takes to make a hit. There's this poor lost soul on Instagram that I see every once in a while, and I don't remember his Instagram handle, or I just say it because I'm not shy about this stuff, but he's a quote unquote A&R guy in Nashville, and his job is he finds artists for record labels, and that's what he every day he's posting some bullshit post about what your songs have to be and how many followers you have to have in order for this to happen and that to happen and blah, blah, blah. When in reality, all you have to do is have talent. You have to have the talent first, but then you just have to bring into the world things that matter to you. And if the time is right and the moment is right and the intention behind the song is right, you won't be able to keep it quiet. You won't be able to keep it down. And not that anyone was trying to keep God Only Knows down. That's not my point. It's just that these people that think they can tell you what a song has to be this long, and you have to get to the chorus by this point, and you have to, you know, people don't like key changes, and God Only Knows meanders through this beautiful soundscape, and the last chorus of the song is in a totally different key than the beginning of the song, and no one even notices, you know, and the message in the song is so genuine and so pure. I mean, like, is that not how I feel about my wife too? You know, like, I'd be a mess without this woman. And so that song gives me hope for music. It also makes me realize what that poor lost soul on Instagram is telling all of these young musicians about what they have to do and should do and have to be, and might be the reason why most music is like that now, you know? And if there's a young musician sitting in his room or her room right now wondering what they should do, or wondering, you know, you should do what you love. Whatever that voice is in your head, whatever that sound is in your head, whatever the click track is in your head, follow that around, because that's never going to lead you wrong. I'm not saying it's going to lead to success, but it's not going to lead you wrong. And I think that if the rest of us did that, myself included sometimes, that I didn't listen to what things should be or have to be or supposed to be, more like what Brian Wilson did with all of his music, that we would be in a much better place musically in the world than we are right now. So that song reminds me of that quite often, and honestly led me to the place that I Had a Name led me, you know, which is, I'm not comparing myself to Brian Wilson by any stretch of the imagination. That's not my point. But it led me to a place of trying to make something different. And it's very satisfying to make different things. So God Only Knows by the Beach Boys is the song that anytime somebody asks me, what my favorite song is or what I love or what song wants me to keep going, that's the one.
The Beach Boys, God Only Knows, talked about twice by two separate people on the original Ultimate Mixtape episode back at episode 100. Obviously is going to be in this one as well. It's a song that made so many people fall in love with music. I got the chance to see the Beach Boys, the Mike Love fronted version, this summer with the family. We got to sit second row, and this song was obviously one of the highlights of it. And it's also more poignant this year, given the fact that the world is no longer blessed with Brian Wilson being on this earth, but he'll always be with us through these incredible songs, such as God Only Knows. So an absolute masterpiece of a pick there. And we're down to 2 songs left for the Ultimate Mixtape. And it's tough, man. Coming out of the Beatles and John Lennon and the Beach Boys, where do you go? Let's find out from Ed Toth of the Doobie Brothers with his pick for the Ultimate Mixtape.
Whew. Not exactly the lightning round. I'm trying to think of early back. I didn't really have a lightning bolt moment. But when I do go back and think about songs that resonated with me early on, that really made me think and feel, I keep coming back to What's Going On by Marvin Gaye. And oddly enough, I think the first version of that really resonated with me is on a Quincy Jones record, which at the time we're recording this, we just lost recently. And I actually went back and listened to that just the other day after hearing about his passing. And that song means a lot to me for a lot of different reasons.
Marvin Gaye's What's Going On, an absolute anthem, an absolute masterpiece of music history, and a song that is so important to the world of music. And I could see why it made Ed fall in love with music, and it's probably made countless others. And it is just such a poignant and powerful song. And the Doobie Brothers are always out doing their thing. Be sure to catch Ed on the road with them. The Doobie Brothers have a new album out this year. Be sure to check that out. And Ed's also got some other side projects going on, so be sure to follow him on Instagram for more on what he's got going on. I appreciate him coming on the show to join me for a full circle discussion, talking about everything from his years with Vertical Horizon as their drummer on the Everything You Want and Go album, all the way to his current now 20-year stint behind the kit for the Doobie Brothers. And when he started, he was one of 2. And now he's the solo drummer. We talk about all that on the episode, so be sure to check that out in the archives. And thank you so much to Ed for coming on. It was an absolute pleasure talking music with you. Hope we can do it again when season 2 rolls around. But with that, we're down to the last song of the night. And I've already given my pick. So what possibly could go here to end out 150 episodes of my weekly mixtape? It just so happens that Sean Faust has that answer. And it might ring a bell to some of you. Here's Sean Faust with his pick for the Ultimate Mixtape.
Dude, you just scared the crap out of me. I thought you were going to take my list and do it. There can only be one. Dude. All right. So now that I'm not sketched out, can you repeat the question, please?
If you had to choose one song that either A, made you fall in love with music for the first time, or B, makes you fall in love with music over and over again every time you hear it, which song would you choose and why? It does not have to be a Fish song.
Well, I mean, what made me fall in love with music were themes from film scores, which are not songs, by the way. That annoys me when they call the Raiders March a song. It's right there in the title. It's a march. The Star Wars theme is the theme. So what made me fall in love with music that still has me in love with music is when I hear a really great film score. So to bring songs into that, I got to go to where all of a sudden a song did it for me. Dude, I mean, every time, and now I cry because as I get older, I realize how beautiful this song is. I'm going with The Rainbow Connection by Paul Williams, sung by Kermit the Frog.
Scooping me a second time in a row on this one?
Look at that. Look at that. I could go with Live to Tell by Madonna, which still does it for me too. But I'm telling you, man, it's the Rainbow Connection.
Did anybody out there really think I wasn't going to close out 150 episodes without Rainbow Connection? Come on. Of course I am. It's my favorite song of all time. It's Sean's favorite song of all time. Please be sure to keep up with everything Sean's got going on his end. SeanFaustMusic.com. He is on all the streaming sites. He is on Bandcamp. Support his music, buy his CDs, go to his shows if you're in the East Coast area. He's also out with Slippery When Wet, New Jersey, the premier Bon Jovi tribute act in this area. If you're into Bon Jovi, be sure to check it out. And when you do, go over and say, hey, I heard of you on my weekly mixtape. As any of these artists or any of these podcasters or any of these friends of the show, if you were introduced to them through my weekly mixtape, let them know, because podcasting is a community and we're all here trying to help each other out. And it's one of the coolest communities that I am so grateful to have been a part of for the last 150 episodes. But before we get to that part, Side B of the Ultimate Mixtape, the songs that made you fall in love with music, kicked off with Jeff Beck's "'Cause We Ended as Lovers," submitted by Doug Aldrich of the Dead Daisies. Ray Charles' "Drown in My Own Tears," submitted by Chris Voss of the Record Company. REM's "At My Most Beautiful," submitted by Greg Vorob of Real Reactions. Journey's "Still They Ride," submitted by Paul Jackson of Blackberry Smoke. Chicago's "Look Away," submitted by Lindsey Butler of Children of the 80s. Hall & Oates' "Maneater," submitted by Carrie Cunningham. Jennifer Warren's "Bird on a Wire," submitted by Paul Williams. Bully's "Atom Bomb," submitted by Patreon mixtaper Chad Lamassa. Taylor Swift's "Long Live," submitted by Leah Jones of The Struts Life. Glenn Campbell's "Wichita Lineman," submitted by Jesse Jackson of Set Lusting Bruce and Perfectly Good Podcast. Johnny Horton's "Johnny Freedom," submitted by Patreon mixtaper Philip Bergman. Frank Mills' "Music Box Dancer," submitted by Jay Sweet. Johann Sebastian Bach, Brandenburg Concerto No. 3, submitted by Jason Whistle of It's Not That Bad and There Can Only Be One. The Beatles' "Strawberry Fields Forever," submitted by Tim Foreman of Switchfoot. John Lennon's "Imagine," submitted by Steve Bowman of The Counting Crows. The Beach Boys' "God Only Knows," submitted by Eric Bass of Shinedown. Marvin Gaye's "What's Going On," submitted by Ed Toth of the Doobie Brothers. And Paul Williams' "Rainbow Connection," submitted by Sean Faust. Head over to myweeklymixtape.com to hear all the songs we've discussed in this mix through the playlist embedded on the episode page. And with that, everyone, 150 episodes of My Weekly Mixtape comes to a close. Season 1, if you will. We're closing the chapter on Season 1, and what an incredible run it has been. I am so eternally grateful to each and every one of you who've spent even a minute listening to one of these podcasts, supporting the show, going the extra mile to help spread the word. And I don't want anyone listening to think that this show is going away forever. Podcasting is in my blood. It's in my heart. It's in my spirit. And it's always going to be there. Right now, with everything that's gone on the last year of my life, I need a couple of months to let the dust settle, to recharge my batteries and get back to being a husband, a father, a friend again. So that way I can work podcasting back into my life under this new normal that unfortunately does no longer include my father, who the only regret I have on My Weekly Mixtape is not having him on as a guest. And that's something I didn't think about until it was a little too late. So I'd like to take this moment to dedicate all 150 episodes to him, because I love him so much and I miss him terribly. And so many of the stories that came out of My Weekly Mixtape came from what he has shared with me in music. And I think taking a couple of months away to kind of just remember him and honor him so I can come back and talk about music again and not get choked up like I am in this moment here on this episode, I think will be a good thing for all of us, because there's always going to be more music to talk about. And I am excited to be able to turn this mic on in a couple of months and get right back at it. But I just want to also extend my deepest heartfelt thank you to anyone, again, who has ever listened and supported this show. Anybody who has shared it with a friend, shared it with a fellow podcaster, reached out, been a guest, offered me to be a guest on their show. The community of podcasters that I've connected with is something I'm extremely grateful for and cherish. I've made some amazing friends that I hold now outside of the podcasting sphere because of this. And that is something I am truly grateful for. And that gratefulness also extends to every single one of you who have listened to my weekly mixtape over this run. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. I look forward to hopefully having more conversations with you all in the future. But until that time comes, you can find my weekly mixtape on almost all the social media haunts at my weekly mixtape. Be sure to follow me and say hello. You can also find the entire archive of my weekly mixtape episodes over at myweeklymixtape.com. If you like what you're hearing on the show, even though it's going to be on hiatus for a few months, be sure to tell a friend about the show. Tell several friends. Tell everybody you know. Leave a 5-star review wherever you're listening. All this stuff helps get the show out there, helps get the word out there. While I'm not spreading the good word, the gospel of my weekly mixtape, if you will, maybe you guys can help me out and do that for me. It would mean the world to me. If you want to keep in touch with me, myweeklymixtape@gmail.com. I'd love to hear from you if you're a listener of the show and you like what you hear. And most importantly, the Patreon, which is going to be paused for now. But when the show returns, who knows? You can join it for free and just kind of wait and see what happens, because hopefully I will be talking with you all again very soon. But until that point, like I've said every time for 150 episodes, from the bottom of my heart, thank you and enjoy the tunes.